Now maybe share your overall expressions.
How did the race go?
Impressions?
Yeah.
This race.
I had a pretty good start. The first pass, Terek Pass from Talas, our starting city, was quite suiting me, although we had a very late start. Our bikes didn't arrive, so we started at 4:30 a.m., something like this, instead of 10 p.m. the day before. And I went up the climb and felt pretty good. I didn't really know what position I was in, but on the top of the climb I realized that only Sofian was in front of me, so I was in second position. And yeah, met the media crew up there and then went for the downhill, but as I injured my thumb prior to the race, I dislocated it and was supposed to be wearing a cast by the start of the race. But with some negotiation I was able to be at the start line. I realized that I needed to go a bit slower. I couldn't push as hard in the downhills as I wanted to, so to prevent scratching from the race because of pain and the thumb swelling, I went a bit slower. Went until 238 kilometers into the race and then decided to camp for the first night. Yeah, and from there on I just took longer breaks than I planned on taking, like maybe 5, sometimes 6 hours per night, and just went very consistent. And that was, I think, a good decision because we had some difficult weather sometimes with some snowstorms. Sometimes it was very hot, sometimes we had rain or cold headwinds, and yeah, I just went somewhere around 10th position, and in the later half of the race decided that my thumb was doing a bit better, so I would push more. And so I pushed over Kigedi at night, pushed over Moldo Ashu at night, and then went over the last pass also at night to snatch a 9th position. That was a very good outcome. I'm very happy with that, and I'm actually surprised that it went so well for me, that I was able to manage the pain and the problems with the thumb, not being able to pull the brakes like full on and everything. And so I would say it was a very good edition of the race.
What was the hardest section?
Okay. The hardest section of the race, once again, was the long stretch along the Chinese highway for me, because it's endlessly straight. Again, we had a lot of river crossings, and also, yeah, it's just very tough because it's slowly going uphill. We had a headwind most of the time, the weather wasn't good, it was cold, and it's very remote, so you don't have any resupply. I was quite happy riding alongside the first pair, Toms and Yanis. But yeah, it was very hard to not call it a day and say, no, I don't want to do this anymore at this point.
What type of clothes you have for this race? Can you tell?
So I took one bib short and one jersey and a base layer, and then I had different kinds of jackets. So I had a Polar Tech insulated jacket. It's like a very thin insulated jacket that helps getting through most of the cold sections, like in the morning or in the evening. It's a super nice lightweight jacket. That might be good until 0 degrees, something like this. Then I had a puffy jacket for the really cold moments, which was Primaloft, which is a synthetic equivalent to down. I had a Gore-Tex Pro jacket against rain, snow, whatever Kyrgyzstan was throwing against us. It also works perfectly against wind. And then I had some leg warmers and some merino socks. So basically all the kit was provided by 7Mesh. They're like a super nice small company from British Columbia in Canada. And the socks were the only item not from them. They are from Quack shoes. The shoes that I ride, basically, they have really nice merino socks and I really like them, so I always wear the merino socks.
So you didn't have any isolation for your legs on the.
Oh
roller?
yes, yeah, I had. Sorry, I forgot about that. That's true. I had waterproof pants also to put over, because if it's waterproof, it's also windproof, and like, yeah, whatever a manufacturer says, they're not like. It's not like they're so breathable that you lose. Like, there's always gonna build up some heat underneath your waterproof gear. So in general, I feel like with leg warmers underneath, I can go a very long time. And like, we had -14 one morning at Chatyrkol before Tashrabat, and I had no problems. So I felt very comfortable with this. Oh, and I had 2 pairs of gloves. One was water resistant, like a Gore-Tex Infinium glove, like very thin, and then some thicker insulated gloves on top that I could combine basically, so I'm warm even if it's way into the minus degrees. And I struggled a lot more in the previous edition because I had very bad food poisoning and spent 1.5, 2 days in Kokor in a hotel trying to recover from this. So last time it was a real struggle to get to the finish at all, and then I was actually surprised and really happy to still be in 20th position. And this time, I had a bit like smaller problems, like, you know, the stomach gets a bit upset sometimes with food, it's okay, but I didn't really have to stop, or the feeling that I was completely empty and I needed to call for help because of food poisoning. So this time was way better for me. Maybe I was lucky, I don't know. Sorry for not taking you on the tour earlier today, but it was raining, snowing, foggy, and now it cleared up. I'm a bit further down, but I'll go back into the snow up there.
This time did you have food with you? You brought from...
I had some energy bars, of course. I had a lot of M&Ms and salty peanuts that I mix so I can eat them like while eating. And I had freeze-dried meals. So just like high caloric camping meals, you could say, with like a really small tiny stove. So that stove was 26 grams, so I don't know, the whole cooking setup was 80, 90 grams. I decided to go for that because of the experience last time, saying like, okay, I need at least one nice warm meal with a lot of calories in the evening, and I don't want to ask myself like every time I take this nice and warm meal, like, will this be the end of the campaign, because maybe I have a bad time the next day. Yeah, so that worked very well, and I was super happy because basically it's just this tiny fork back, the right fork back, that was the food. Worked perfectly.
When you started racing, so were you tourer before, or?
Well, as I was quite young, I started road racing, like having a road bike and doing the, you know, a lot lower, but something like Tour de France, basically. and I realized that this wasn't really my thing. I don't like I think it's a totally different sport and the people are not the same like in bikepacking. So after I decided to quit my career in road cycling, we started to do a lot of mountain biking and going longer distance. So as I studied, for example, I decided that I wanted to cycle from San Diego in the United States to Vancouver in Canada. So I did that with a backpack and everything, and then we did a lot of stuff like in the Alps, like doing a Transalp going to Italy and back with the bike, and that was all like not the classic bikepacking like we know it now, but at some point then all those ultra races came up, like the TCR, and you were like, over 4,000 kilometers of bike, it's insane, no, racing, it's not possible. And at some point the Silk Road showed up, and yeah, I did a lot of this stuff, but I never raced, and I dot watched the first Silk Road, and I was so fascinated by it, and I said, okay, I'll give it a try, I'll race it, who knows, maybe I can do it, maybe I can make it to the finish. And that was basically the way that I went. You could say like, yes, those tours that we did, it's kind of like a bit of touring. It was always like with a more sportive background. We always made sure that we were going fast, like covering a lot of distance and climbing in one day. But yeah, definitely a mix out of racing and touring.
What made you to decide to come this race again? The second time.
Kyrgyzstan for me was a very special experience. I'm not sure if there's many places still on this planet where you can discover nature and landscapes that are so untouched, that are so remote, and still find a lot of people like those nomads that are living in the mountains, and they're so nice, they're so welcoming. And all of this experience just made up to me, I love mountains, and I love being somewhere that just seems, well, special. Yeah. And I live in the Alps, and we have a lot of mountains, but you will always be like 20-30 kilometers maximum from the next town. And here sometimes you have like 200 kilometers, and that for us is just crazy. And the other point was the Silk Road mountain race for me was like a huge boost, because no one expected me to finish at all. It was my first race. I did a lot of ultra distance and road racing and other stuff, but I came here as a rookie with no experience, and delivered quite a good performance. And yeah, so it always had like a special place in my heart, because since then I've kind of started to develop a whole business around bikepacking, quit my job in the office, and yeah, I think I own this place and this race a lot, and also Nelson, the race organizer. And as the TCR was cancelled, I quickly called him up and said like, hey, can I please come? I feel like I'm ready to go again, and it was a very good decision.
So tell me please about your platform, GravGraph.
Yeah. So with GravGraph, we started, basically it's a website, GravGrave.cc, and for most people it looks like any other cycling blog. The difference is that the stories on our blog are more like personal stories, so we don't care if that person is a Sofian that is winning races. he has interesting stories to tell, but maybe the people that are in the back have even more interesting stories to tell, because some of them walk 200 kilometers to the finish because their free hub is gone, or they have more interesting stories to tell because they interact more with the locals. Like at the pointy end of the race, we're just like, thank you, no chai, thank you, we need to go, sorry. And the guys in the back, they're like, oh, chai, great, you know, like they have so much more stories to tell. And those personal stories is why we do that. We don't do cycling because every one of us has the ambition or even the abilities to win a race like this. I am very, very sure that there will be no race where I will beat Sofian, unless something happens, like he's getting a mechanical or something. But that's not why we do it. We go home with so many memories, with so many inspirational things that we experienced, and people should see that, because everyone that rides a bike is a plus. We don't need more SUVs, we don't need more people traveling around in cars blocking the roads, and you don't see anything. You will not have a great time like just going on motorways and then stopping in cities, jumping out for a few pictures. On the bike you have perfect speed to travel, you can take pictures wherever you like, you see beautiful landscapes, and you will also see those cities and whatever where you would stop with a car. And so that brings me to the main goal of the whole platform. We work with tourism directly, and we try to establish sustainable cycling routes for cycling tourists, basically, to discover areas without having the hassle of being in traffic, having hundreds of people stumbling around at the same place because this is a tourist hotspot. And yeah, so that's going to be our mission, to establish this in Europe, maybe at some point even somewhere else.
Yesterday you told me about your collaboration with the government in your area.
Yeah, that's basically that's tourism. So most of the time it works like this. We go to them and we say like, hey, you got a lot of people in one spot, and you want people to be spread out because it's a huge infrastructure problem. So here's our offer. We do a few tours and we advertise them, and people have a lot of stuff to do, but they're not necessarily all at the same place. It is a tough way because of course it needs someone on the board of that tourism area that understands this and that has an interest in doing this. But it's slowly coming. Slowly, tourism, even in Austria, is realizing like, yes, we cannot forever live from the ski tourists that come with their SUVs and bring a lot of money. Yes, they bring a lot of money, but we have climate change, we have other problems, and this will not go forever. And cycling is growing. We are like in the biggest boom of cycling worldwide because of the COVID pandemic. And now we realize that we don't have the infrastructure that we need to accommodate a safe infrastructure and a safe environment for people that want to discover this by bike, or let's say in general for people on different kinds of vehicles, be it on feet, on bike, with a car, maybe a motorcycle. We cannot just have them all in the same place. This will always lead to conflicts. So slowly, of course, they're realizing, and the way to go is to work together with them instead of just saying like, oh, it's shit. We need to do something. So yeah, We have a lot of collaborations with the Salzburg Tourism Board, for example, which is my home area, of course, with Carinthia. I'm really proud of that. They're doing a great job, and there's way more to come in Lower Austria, in South Tyrol, hopefully, and maybe at some point we can make a difference that is good for all of us, and that is a very, very cool goal. So I quit my normal office job and I'm trying to do this.